This is the primal scream of a dying regime.
Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish, in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, Thursday, 30 July, year of the Lord 2026. We got a lot of wood to chop this hour, and we're going to chop it all and stack it, okay? Major Lucas, one more time. What's the course of action people say? This one's got my head blown up. You know, not just Mo, she's up on the border of West Point, but also very involved in veterans affairs and stays close to it. And when she started explaining this to me, and then you start explaining to me, I go, I don't get this one at all, because this is such a high priority for President Trump. So what is the course of action? What should be taken here? What should be done?
We need to support President Trump's huge veterans bill. 62 bills put into one. It's called the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. This will fulfill what he did in his first term, which was a legacy building type opportunity to provide veterans choice in their health care. But it also delivers on a campaign promise that President Trump gave to New Hampshire that they would have a full suite VA hospital. Unfortunately, the VA Secretary, Doug Collins, has been AWOL. He has not been supporting this bill forcefully enough. And the War Room Posse can use Bill Blaster, but they can also go to veteranaction.org, click on the Take Action button, encourage your senators and your congressmen to support the Take Care of America's Veterans Act.
Okay. Let me get that, and I'll give everyone the Chiron in the next. I want to, what's your social media? Where do people go?
You can follow us at Veteran Action and at Mark Lucas USA on all the social channels.
Okay, Lucas, thank you. I'll be back in touch after the show. We got to get on this one, both this afternoon and tomorrow. Another big one. Thank you, sir. Go to Bill Blaster. Also go to his site, but Bill Blaster, this is why Grace built it, and the development team built it. I want to go back. I got Navarro at the White House, and I got a great cold open for Navarro. So Dr. Navarro, just hang for 1 second. I got to get to this Justice Department thing, which is all important. Gave you the numbers, and go to Bill Blaster and get them. The number for Cornyn's office, 202-224-2934. Call directly. Or, and particularly if you're in Texas, because these local Texas, the local offices for these senators and congressmen, they really get nervous because they realize the locals are ticked. 512-469-6034 to tell Cornyn. There we go, right there. Thank you, Denver. Wow. Can I get that up? They don't need to see my face. There we go. I love that. Thank you, Denver. Take action now. We need Todd Blanche. President needs him. We need him permanently in as Attorney General. Hey, I got a recommendation. You know, they moved heaven and earth. As I was running yesterday, they got Jay Clayton in like a week. They got Jay Clayton in a week because they hate Pulte. Why? Because Pulte's had such a huge impact over there. We would be nowhere with this if Pulte hadn't gone into DNI and used his declassification tools to do this, to get to, and that's why they hated him, and that's why the deep state's got to get Clayton in there. Lindsay supported it, and Tom Cotton's got to have it. The CIA wants it, everybody wants it. So, whereas President Trump's other nominees are just kind of sitting there, and Carrie Lake's been pulled, I think, from the last batch of ambassadors. She's been pulled because of Tillis. This is how they're trying to turn President Trump into a lame duck, not giving him recess appointments. But how about this for a solution? How about this? War and Posse, like this one? Since Pulte's term's clearly coming to end, I don't know if it's going to happen this weekend, if it's going to happen next week, if it's going to happen at the end of August, we don't know. Clayton's been confirmed, but the president hasn't signed the commission, so who knows? However, you want to get him moving over in the Senate? What about this? Pulte then goes as the interim attorney general. Let's get Pulte over to Maine Justice. Hello, senators. How about Pulte at Maine Justice? Will you get Todd Blanche confirmed by, I don't know, Saturday morning? All of a sudden, they'll move with urgency. Let's just use Pulte. Pulte, you know, winding down his time as DNI. He's done a magnificent job there. He's an American folk hero. Let's put him in at justice. Let's see how quick they move then. Because this is what you need. With the Senate, President Trump, which shouldn't have to happen, he needs a forcing function to make it operate. How about this forcing function? Pulte as the interim attorney general. You like that? Well, if you don't like that, then Cornyn, get off your ass and let's move. The president's met you more than halfway. It's time. The war on posse. Let's get to the ramparts right now. This is outrageous. It's hard enough. I mean, we got so much going on in the world right now. The president's got so much weight on his shoulders. I realize you may not be ecstatic with every decision. We certainly aren't here at the War Room. But guess what? If you didn't have Trump, you wouldn't have a freaking country. The man saved the country at least 3 times. So let's get Todd Blanche confirmed, and let's, particularly Texans, get to Bill Blaster. Can we put up on the screen one more time? Texans, you're the jewel of the crown of the union for a reason. Let's get that local number and call his office and put him on blast. Put him on blast, as only Texans can. Okay, I'm going to come back with one more rant on that before we leave, because got to get the AG in there. Everybody's bitching and moaning, not enough getting done. Let's get a permanent team there and ram this stuff home and not let Cornyn stop it. Okay, I got an amazing cold open about Dr. Peter Navarro. Let's go and play it.
For you is that Mr. Fauci received a preemptive pardon from former President Joe Biden, covering his time in the lead on some of these COVID-19 issues. Do you and the White House believe that charges could still be brought against Dr. Fauci going forward?
I love the question, and here's why it's important today. Fauci, if he lies to Congress today, then the pardon has no bearing, because this is a crime he's committed since the pardon. So he's got a really hard choice. I believe when push comes to shove, he is going to do either one of 2 things. He is going to cite the Fifth Amendment and blame people trying to lynch him on the Hill. Where, it's like, no. He's either going to cite the Fifth Amendment or he's going to have a really bad dose of I can't recall. But the problem with I can't recall is all we have to do is read his diaries and see what he had to say to prove that he is a liar. So it's going to be a really interesting thing. But for the American people, please understand, this man, I fought him. I was the only guy fighting him. And it cost me a lot, because he was the guy. But he lied to you repeatedly in ways which had material effects on people dying, people getting sick. And don't even get me started on the vaccine issue, because there's all sorts of things we could talk about there. And the problem with the vaccine ultimately was that Fauci and Pfizer didn't give us the data, which was beginning to show that we should have more concern about whether people were taking that vaccine. Fauci would invoke the Fifth. And the problem that Fauci has is that his public statements are so at odds with his diary that man is guilty of crimes, and he doesn't want to dig the hole any deeper. So I appreciate you having me on. I was the White House policy coordinator for the Defense Production Act during the pandemic, right? What does that mean? I was the guy helping you to get masks and gloves and ventilators and swabs and all sorts of stuff. And what's interesting is if you read Fauci's diary, Piers, my name appears almost 60 times. And Fauci attacks me continually in his diary. But what's interesting is the diary will show that on all 5 of the things that he and I disagreed with, and I was the only guy in that White House besides the president who got in Fauci's face, I was absolutely right. He was absolutely wrong, and Americans died because of the adulation that Fauci had from the American people and the inability to stop his runaway train. watching him invoke the Fifth, that's a long fall down from St. Fauci, Piers.
Dr. Navarro from the White House. Peter, tell us, why did you have the insight that no one else had that yesterday morning before all this happened? You said on C-SPAN early on, he's going to take the fifth. Watch it. How did you know that?
Steve, I was the only one who figured that out, which was astonishing because to me, it's obvious. Here's the trap that Fauci's in. If he answers questions truthfully, he has to admit, one, that he funded gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab. As soon as he admits that, then it follows that the gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab was used to gain function for a bat virus, a harmless bat virus, so that it could infect humans. And as soon as we know that, then Fauci becomes the godfather of the pandemic, and there's blood on his hands. His reputation is even further down the toilet than it is now, and he opens himself up to all sorts of civil actions because based on that, he's responsible directly through that lab for millions of people dying and all sorts of other economic costs. So he can't go there, and he's dead narcissist walking because if you think about it, his whole persona, Steve, we know from the diary, is that he loves this adulation from the world. He loves being on media. I mean, I think the only show he'll be able to go on will be Jake Tapper. I think that was his Thanksgiving partner. We learned that from the diary. And by the way, I asked Jake if he would have me on yesterday. Wouldn't have me on. No surprise there. But the point is that Fauci is dead narcissist walking. Hang on. He's got nowhere to go. He can never talk about this stuff.
Tapper and these guys, the lawyers at these places, they're trying to get mergers done, everything like that. They got huge liabilities here, bro. They get huge liabilities. CNN, MSNBC. Hang on. I'm going to hold you through the break here. I know you got to go, but you got to stick with me. I got to get this question out. Yeah. We changed the name of the show for, back in those days, we were 3 hours. We took 2 hours and changed the name on, I think, 20 January of 2020 to War Room Pandemic, right? Genius. Given our knowledge of Wuhan and what was going to happen in Wuhan as a military, a bioweapons lab like Fort Detrick. On the 23rd of January, correct me if I'm wrong, the first confrontation in the JFK room, down the Situation Room, occurred between Dr. Peter Navarro and Fauci. The first time you laid eyes on this guy, and you had a huge throwdown because he was blowing off any kind of controls. Remember, this is about the quarantine of people coming in from China and the U.S., and you and Fauci had a huge blow up. Tell me about it.
The boss sent me in there. President Trump sent me in there to fight for the China travel ban in the sit room. Mulvaney's chairing the meeting. You got Fauci and Redfield. I didn't know him. I didn't know he walked on water. I didn't know his excrement did not have any aroma to it. Okay? It was just me taking the measure of a man. And within minutes, I'm in a very heated exchange with him where he kept like a parrot repeating travel bans don't work. And I'm saying to him, why? What's your evidence of that? Of course they work. We got thousands of Chinese people coming in here, many infected. They're going to spread that. And that night, I lost the battle that day. Mulvaney is a turd, just for the record. He's sitting there chairing. He goes at the end of the meeting, well, we have a consensus, no travel ban. I go, Mick, there's no friggin' consensus in this room, brother. None. And he had to back off. That night I wrote a memo, sent it out. That's what you do, bureaucratic stuff. You paper everybody. And I predicted with astonishing accuracy, Steve, how many people would die in the pandemic if we didn't do what we're doing. I had the costs right. I had the lives right. That thing went out that night, and the next day they flipped. And here's the things that pisses me off about Fauci, because he's such a pathological liar. For going forward, he would always say, no, I always supported the travel ban. But the diary contradicts it.
Yes.
Well, the diary contradicts it. 2 days, for 2 days running earlier.
Hang on 1 second. I'm coming right back to the White House. Dr. Peter Navarro and Dr. Fauci, one of the most evil men ever to walk the face of the earth.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, we're going back to the White House momentarily. 30-year jumbos jumped to 6.9%. 30-year right now, government bond 5.2%. The 10-year is over. What is it over? The 10 years are 4.7%. Your world's changing before you, right? You got to finance these deficits somehow. Got the Senate talking about a lift on the debt ceiling, attaching some piece of legislation. We will get all over that. In the interim, take out your phone, text Bannon, Bannon, at 989898. Talk to Philip Patrick and the team. Why gold has been a hedge for 3,000 years or 5,000 years of mankind's history, a long time. Ran a long beta site test on this, okay? So you're all ready. Talk to Philip Patrick and team about owning physical gold. Cornyn, also, can we get it up there? Particularly you Texans. Right now, Cornyn, we need to get the Bill Blaster. You need to get right there. Look at that. Thank you. Thank you. Denver, call Cornyn's office directly, 202-224-2934, or the Texas office at 512-469-6034. If you go to Bill Blaster right now, download it. It's got all his regional offices, and that would blow their heads up. Call right now. It's very blunt. President Trump needs his attorney general confirmed by the Senate. It's got to get a Judiciary Committee. Back off, Todd Blanche. Send that message today. Okay, Dr. Peter Navarro, let's just cut to the chase. You know this guy better than I. The diaries, he's obsessed with you. You know why? Because in the first term, let's be blunt, you were fighting this guy every day. You were taking him on. You were not letting his BS go unchallenged. He hated you for a good reason, right? You were the one sitting there calling him out on his lies in these meetings every day. So talk to us. What should be done? What should the Trump administration do? What should Maine Justice do? What should states do? What should victims do? You got one of the most evil individuals in human history that exposed himself yesterday. You called it. So what should happen? Yeah. What's the action?
The law has to be figured out as whether the pardon covers any state from suing. Okay. And I think not. I think the states are kind of the best line of attack. So let's sort that out. My idea, though, is a civil suit, a class action civil suit that goes after Fauci for his culpability and liability associated with his role in funding the virus, normal bureaucratic action, but then covering up. I think that's where you get him and hang him on his own words. And if you got him in a civil suit, you could depose him, and then what happens? Boy, that would be really interesting. Here's an out of the box thing. You might even think about giving him, the DOJ giving him immunity, so that you can actually find out exactly what happened. And I think if you got him to reveal just how despicable that was.
I cannot
hang on, hear me out. Let me finish the
for
thought.
a guy that went to federal prison, I want him in Leavenworth for the rest of his life, and Peter Navarro is giving me civil suits. And what? Okay,
I do. But can you imagine? It would kill this man. It would kill this man, Steve, based on his narcissism, to have to admit he was the godfather of the pandemic. Do you realize that he would never leave his house? He would be a prisoner on his own. It's just, I'm throwing it out there, Steve. But I think I like the civil suit. That's kind of my thing. But,
I'm all for federal prison for the rest of his life. But that's just me. Yep.
I'm there.
Go ahead.
But here's what I'm asking the war room to do, to just get why this is important. Fauci funds the gain-of-function research to basically give it to China to create a virus that then he could create a vaccine to cure. So the vaccine people make a ton of money, and that was the grand plan, and he didn't count on a lab leak. And if people understand that, then CNN and MS Now and the New York Times and the Washington Post can't hide from this story like they're hiding.
Let me take my number 2
by the way, the Democrats are dead on this. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me take, because they ran out yesterday. You tell they didn't want any spots. That's why they all ran for the hills. Let me take my number 2 pencil out and write in my diary, Dear Diary, Remind me to next time I see Peter Navarro, wash his mouth out with soap. Okay, Navarro, real quickly. We got a big situation with India. We got to be America first, dude. India, and we love Modi. You know, I love Modi because he puts India first and Indians first. He's a hammer. What is going on in this courts thing? They've basically stolen an industry from the United States. Starting in 2010, they had none. Now they got like 40% market share. What in the hell's happening?
I have a personal stake in this, Steve, in the sense of I did a very small kitchen remodel and had to buy some countertops. And I go into this warehouse with my wife, and the thing's half the size of a football field, and it's all friggin' Indian quartz, and my head's exploding. It's like, what's going on here? And I looked into it, and it's the same model as China. They just dump this stuff and put Americans out of business, and it's just wrong. So in a few days, there will be, as I understand it, possibly some tariffs announced on this based on things going through the courts. In my view, that the tariff needs to be what's called a lockout tariff, like 50 or 100%, and just keep the cheating Indians out like you keep the cheating Chinese out. I mean, people need to put their heads around the fact that India equals China when it comes to trade. They're the Maharaja of tariffs. Right. And by the way, we're doing the intern photo today. I don't know if you can hear the music in the background.
I do.
But it's quite something. The boss is going to be out to greet him and stuff. Yeah. Hey, one last thing, Steve. Real Clear Markets just popped another article which pertains to what you talked about the Fed decision. Basically, very bad decision yesterday, and I explained exactly why.
Okay, I hate to cut away from my favorite song, but people know how much I love the Village People. So on that note, Dr. Navarro, where do people go get all your content?
Do the Trump dance. PeterNavarro.com is the gateway to X, Getter, True Social, Instagram, and of course the Substack, which should not be missed. But keep your eye each week on Real Clear Markets, because I do regular stuff there based on the indicators that come out, or events like the Fed announcement.
John Tend, Real Clear Markets. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Walking Tony Fauci.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Please save me. Colby, chapter, over $1 million saved for the War Room Posse, 845 War Room. But most importantly, you're getting optimum programs. I want to make sure everybody understands that. This thing's so complicated. I had a meeting yesterday with some grassroots folks in a certain battleground state, and it came up. Actually, your company came up about how people are loving this. They showed me some emails, but one person in particular said it's really Medicare without tears. They had cried. One time they had gotten on the phone with a couple of different advisors, and when they got off, it was so traumatizing to them because they understood less when they got off with the advisors because of the complexity of it. They started to cry. They just said, I have no earthly idea what I just learned. I talked to 3 different people. I have no ability to make a decision here. And so I think that's one of the powers of what Chapter offers. Talk to us about how do people get engaged here, particularly there's some news stories out today. There's some more bad news coming on Medicare.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, Steve, and thanks for that story. It's good to hear the impact we're having. You can call 845 War Room and get connected to one of our Medicare advisors. They're all full-time employees, trained, and their only goal is to make sure that they're saving you money and getting you the right health care for your needs. Unlike most other Medicare advisors, we look at every single Medicare option and recommend the right plan for each person. And there's a lot of data and a lot of technology that goes into that, but it allows us to put the posse first to really help people. And then once people are enrolled in a plan, we can help them navigate the entire ecosystem. So if you get a new prescription and you need to find a lower cost drug, we can help you with that. If you need to appeal a bill or a claim, we can help you with that. And we do it all for free. You mentioned the news. So yesterday, the government announced that they're ending the Part D subsidy, which was initiated under the Inflation Reduction Act and was scheduled to be continued through the end of 2027. But the administration just announced that they're ending it at the end of this year instead of the end of next year. And so what that means for consumers, for Americans, is that it is very likely that your standalone Part D prescription plan prices will increase next year. And so, what should you do?
Hold on. Is this on fiscal year? So when you say year, is that September 30th or it's calendar year? So December 31st.
January 1.
So walk me through what's going to happen here, and what should the audience do?
Yeah, so the government is going to stop spending about $3.6 billion on the Part D prescription program going directly to insurance carriers. And so insurance carriers will likely pass some of that back to consumers in the form of premiums and copays. So consumers should give us a call to shop their Part D plan. And one thing to note is that I think a lot of insurance carriers are going to try to trick consumers into switching from a Medicare supplement plan into a Medicare Advantage plan. They're going to use this as a way to try to convince people to do that. That is a bad idea for most people. You should stay on your Medicare supplement plan and just shop your Part D plan, which we're happy to help with. So give us a call at 845-WAR-ROOM and see if we can help you save some money and make sure you're on the right plan.
Okay, I want everyone out there. This is free, no obligation. You have no downside. The only thing you have to kill is your fear itself. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. How about that? Lifting off FDR. Call now, 845-WAR. Set up for a reason. Colby, I'm going to have you. I'll talk to you afterwards. Hopefully maybe get you on tomorrow and go drill down on this new change that's coming, because these changes happen all the time and people freak out. Colby, thank you so much. 845-WAR-ROOM. Call right now. Save the War Room Posse. Over $1 million, but most importantly, getting into optimum plans. Got two major hitters that are going to join us next. Eric Metaxas, who's in Oxford, and the great Bill Gertz. Bill Gertz is going to break down something on a story he's got that's going to kind of, I don't know if shock you, but say, hey, I don't understand this at all. Next in the War Room.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, Cornyn's D.C. office, 202-224-2934, or the Texas office, 512-469-6034, right there on your screen. Let's get up on the Chiron. Thank you, Denver. Fantastic. Call Cornyn and say, you got to back off. The president needs his attorney general, needs him now. Hey, here's the alternative. Let's just put Pulte in there. Suck on that. Think they like Bill Pulte? Maybe Bill Pulte as attorney general start investigations on, consider the possibilities. Bill Pulte is interim. Eric Metaxas joins us from Oxford. Sir, your book is number 9, 7 of the last 8 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, and people should have to understand, it opened at 2, and that never happens. It fell off, and the reason was you sold out of books, and we didn't have it reloaded at the stores or on Amazon particularly. But for the last 6 weeks in a row on the New York Times bestseller list, number 9. Talk to me about it, sir. The book is Revolution. Talk to me.
I'll tell you, Steve, you know this because you know me well enough. It's not about selling books. This is about saving America. It's about saving the West. This book, it's not like I wrote it this way. I just said, I just want to tell the story. I love my country. I want to tell the story of the country for the 250th anniversary. But by telling the story, it's a love letter. I want to read something to you that I got from a veteran. I got this email sent to us. He didn't even know I would get this. He sent it to my team. A veteran writes to me, for over a decade, I have hated my country for sending me to Iraq and Afghanistan for nothing. After we lost both wars and armed the Taliban, we lost friends to cancer and many to bombs set up by the enemy. I have been really angry like the Vietnam veterans were. Your book, Revolution, has helped me in my prayers to the Lord Jesus to once again love my country and to fight for the soul of this place. I didn't know about the incredible sacrifices of the men and women. I never knew that many of the founders didn't want slavery. I never knew about Israel Putnam or Nathan Hale. I'll be eternally grateful for you writing this book. Thank you, sir. Let me tell you, that's the greatest email. I just can't even tell you. I get choked up. This is about loving America. Because listen, we all know what is wrong. We know what needs fixing. We know what we need to do. But we also need to be encouraged. We need to know why this country is worth loving. You know, you fight for what you love. And I really believe when you know the story of the revolution, you fall in love. I think I got a lot of emails like this, but I said I got to read this to you because it was so strong. But I get a lot of emails like this that people are falling in love with their country. That's why I wrote the book. When you know these stories and you know the sacrifice, you want to be a part of this. You want to be a part of the story. So, I got to tell you, it moves me. It moves me because I know there are a lot of people out there, they're discouraged. We need to be encouraged. We need, it's a big part of it, Steve, because, people get black-pilled and they're tuned out. We need to be encouraged. A lot of people that need a shot in the arm of why this country is worth loving and fighting for, because we got to fight with everything we have. This is it.
The one, and I think this is what the veteran, what hit him is that in this entire book, it is a sacred cause, and these men and women understand that they're doing something unique in human history. They understand that, and they consciously go into this understanding that they're risking everything. They could be just part of what's going to be at that time the biggest empire in the world. You get India on one side, North America, the United States on the other. Just go with it. All these monopolistic powers, they make a conscious decision. When you read this book, it's like a novel. They make a conscious decision because they have a duty and responsibility to God to actually do this and let that divine providence work through them as an agent. That's the power of the book, I think, when I read the narrative.
Well, thank you. And they were not fighting for the America of FDR or George H.W. Bush or Colin Powell. Or they were fighting for something, and that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting to get that country back. We're fighting to get rid of the deep state. Think about it. The deep state is like the monarchists of that day. There were people on the inside. Amen. There were people in this country fighting against George Washington. So nothing's new under the sun. We need to recapture the vision of America. And I say this, that in 1860, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote Paul Revere's Ride, one of the most beautiful poems ever written, and I quote it in the book. But why did he write that in 1860? Because going into the Civil War, he wanted to galvanize the men of that era to fall in love with the nation that was born when Paul Revere made his Midnight Ride. We need to go back to understand what we're fighting for and who we're fighting against. And it is a sacred cause. We don't just say that. It is. This is God's idea. This country is God's idea. And I wouldn't fight for anything that wasn't God's idea. This is God's idea, and we need to make it that kind of a country again. And so I think it's, vitally, vitally important that we're encouraged. It just thrills me that this veteran took the time to write and to say how he hated this country and how bitter he was, but that when he read the story of what happened, that turned this country, that made this country come into being 250 years ago, you realize that's God's hand in history. This is not just some other country. This is God's hand in history. People around the whole world want what we have in America. And God wants us to shine our light. It's the shining city on a hill. So people look at it and say, how do we get that? So people all around the world say, I want my country to be like that. How do we get those values in my country? At the heart of it, of course, is the Bible and Christian faith. That's at the heart of it. But then you got to put meat on the bone and figure out, okay, what does that mean politically? What does that mean in terms of what kind of government we have? How do you get self-government? How do you get representational government? How do we, the people, govern ourselves? How does that work? Well, that's what America is. That's what we're supposed to be, and that's what we're fighting to get back.
Go to Amazon right now, order. Particularly now, you get it not just for a young person that may not understand the history of the country or this sacred trust that we have. But now if somebody's angry, despondent, or black-pilled, get them a copy of the book. Get them a copy of the book. They will not be black-pilled after reading this. We got to bounce, but I've got to give me a minute. You at Oxford, the Inklings, the pub.
There's so much here. Even
tell me about
here,
it.
Okay? I'm walking around and people are like, oh yeah, this is where Alice in Wonderland happened. And I'm like, no. Let me tell you what happened here. George Whitefield. If it weren't for George Whitefield, America would have not come into being. He was the great evangelist in the 18th century, up and down the 13 colonies. George Whitefield went to Oxford, and there's two stories here. I won't tell them now, but I'll tell them on my Instagram post. The history that is here. Let's not forget that most of what we have in the United States, it came from here, and the British lost their way, and they still haven't gotten it back. But it started here. The Great Awakening with the Wesleys and with George Whitefield, they were here at Oxford. They were praying here at Oxford. People made fun of them. People sneered at them because the upper classes sneered at evangelical Christianity. George Whitefield, I can't believe as I'm walking these streets thinking of C.S. Lewis, thinking of George Whitefield. The history here is amazing, and every American needs to know this history. We need to be proud of our history. Yesterday, I was at Blenheim Palace, where Winston Churchill was born. It's just incredible. It's incredible. That's the best of England. There's a lot of good stuff here.
Where can people go to find out about your trip? Where can they go to find out more about your travels, and where they can go see you back in the United States? And where can they get the book?
I'm preaching in Dallas this Sunday. I'm speaking in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The week after that, I'm going to San Jose, California. I'm all over the place. Go to ericmetaxas.com. My schedule is there, and I'm here for a Socrates in the City retreat tour. Go to Socrates in the City and sign up. And on Instagram, I'll be sharing most of this stuff. Just Eric Metaxas on Instagram and on X. But it's good to be here, but it'll be good to be back in the United States of America, which I love.
Eric, great trip. And let's keep this book on the New York Times bestseller list. It's amazing. Everybody in America has got to read this book. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So the president put out a Truth Social regarding Todd Blanche and Cornyn. And John Cornyn has just come back in his grill. That's the president right there. Cornyn, can we get this one at Cornyn too? Cornyn just responds, POTUS is mistaken if he believes concerns about the provisions in his tax lawsuit settlement are limited to me and Senator Tillis. Wow. Folks, I guess our phone calls right now maybe not having the impact that we need, or maybe he hasn't checked in with his office. Let's go ahead and call it. Let's get that back up on there. Cornyn's an arrogant one. Cornyn, let me be blunt. Maybe this is not the way to sell it, but hey, it's war room, so I got to do what I got to do, right? You got humiliated. The end of your political career, nobody's going to remember the other 30 years you hung around and leached off the system. They're going to remember the final humiliation. So let's not humiliate yourself any further. Make sure that the only reason you had a job as the president of the United States dragged you through a couple of times. So make sure that you end with a little class. Stay classy. The number, folks, because I don't think we're getting through to him, 202-224-2934 or 512-469-6034. The president's not going to be a supplicant. I got a solution. Just throw Pulte in there. Throw Pulte in there and say, hey, look, this guy in Texas named Cornyn. I don't know. Would we ever do that? Come on, man. Pulte, what an amazing job he's done at DNI. Keep him at DNI at least for a couple more weeks. Bill Gertz, we started the show with John Solomon breaking this huge story about the 4 intelligence services finally signed up to agree that the Chinese Communist Party interfered with the 2020 election. Now I'm going to finish with, and I'm going to hold you through the break. Your story makes my head blow up. I thought that, Colby and the team over at the Pentagon, Bridge Colby and team, were working on a hemispheric defense. He came out with some stuff in the hemispheric defense. Part of that is the Central Pacific and the 3-island chain is a natural strategic pivot for America. But what happened? You're reporting on this thing. Is the Department of War over sucking up to the PLA and the Chinese Communist Party, sir?
That's what it appears to me. Basically, they sent a Deputy Assistant Secretary of War, Alvaro Smith, to China to celebrate the 99th anniversary of the founding of the Chinese Communist Party's military wing, the PLA. And during his remarks, he used this word respectful, which to me was just beyond the pale. And basically, first of all, to go there, it's part of the Pentagon's effort to try and schmooze the Chinese military. We've seen this play before for decades. We try to, quote, build trust with the Chinese military. And then they knocked down one of our surveillance planes back in 2001. We pick up the phone, they don't answer. They fly a spy balloon across the United States in 23, and we try to contact the Chinese military, crickets. So this is a crazy effort to try and revive the mill-to-mill exchanges with China, which have been a disaster for the U.S. I remember back maybe a couple decades ago, a Chinese PLA officer came on a visit and asked one of our officers on an aircraft carrier, where is the weakest part of the carrier? And the guy said, it's underneath by the magazine, the ammunition magazine. And right away, then they traced that the Chinese went out and bought wake-homing torpedoes for Moscow. And so clearly Congress stepped in and tried to restrict this military-to-military exchanges. Now they've revived it. And, you know, it goes back to November when I was with Pete Hegseth in Kuala Lumpur for the ASEAN summit. And he spoke to the ASEAN defense minister and said the Chinese are engaged in coercion, aggression. And then the same day on his personal X account, he said, yes, I just talked to the president, and both of us agree that our relations with China have never been better. So he got a nasty call from the president to say, dial back the rhetoric. Yeah. And I think this latest episode of celebrating the anniversary of the PLA in Beijing is a reflection of that.
Hang on. Our allies in South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan ain't celebrating the anniversary of the birth of the People's Liberation Army. Trust me. And those are three rock solid allies. Next in the War Room.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
If you think this situation in the Middle East, which, as I say, is a sideshow, is dangerous, and it's quite dangerous, just look at the capital markets. And this is why I keep saying you go check with Birch Gold right now, birchgold.com, promo code or /Bannon, end of the dollar empire. Get fully up to speed on this because capital markets are exploding. You ain't seen nothing yet. If the balloon goes up in East Asia, in the South China Sea, and the East China Sea, you ain't seen nothing yet. And our allies, although South Korea's in a little shaky territory right now because of this CCP-backed takeover, Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea, those brothers ain't going down without a fight. And they understand the PLA. We should not be celebrating anything with the PLA. We certainly should be sending an Assistant Secretary of War to go kiss their ass. That's not the way to deal with the Chinese Communist Party. The way to deal with the Chinese Communist Party is punch them in the mouth. Bill Gertz, one more time. I want people. How did this happen, Bill? And I want people to go to read this article. I know you're on top of this, but I just don't understand this one at all, sir.
Yeah, this is part of a new policy which Elbridge Colby at the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy is promoting. It's called a denial defense. He wrote a whole book about it. And basically, it's the idea that we're going to keep the Chinese military at arm's length because we really can't defeat them in a head-on conflict. This is being interpreted by the Chinese military as weakness. This is they don't understand, and the president doesn't understand that he's dealing with an ideological enemy here, not just an adversary or a competitor. This is an enemy that is out to destroy the United States, and that is the main obstacle to their achieving world domination. And we've got to understand this, and we've got to push back. The late, great Konstantin Menges, Reagan administration, said the most important thing in dealing with communist China is to tell the truth about China. And we've got to do that. I've been trying to do that in my reporting at the Washington Times and in my books.
By the way, we started today with four intelligence agencies saying, hey, they interfered with the whole show has been either Fauci or the stolen election, right? Basically, Fauci is a product, the bioweapon. They tore up the Lighthizer Navarro deal in May of 19. They declared a people's war on us because they thought one belt, one road was going to work. They then let off a bioweapon to take Trump down, and on top of that, then tried to steal the 2020 election. Full stop. The Chinese Communist Party. So no, we should not be sending anybody to celebrate the anniversary of the PLA. The PLA is a killing machine. Don't ask me. Ask Japan. Ask South Korea. Ask the Philippines. Ask Taiwan. Those are people they'll be down for a fight with us. Real allies. Gertz,
one of the stories that I had this week, Steve, I should bring up too, is that in 2018, and this was a report, declassified by Rand Paul, a declassified Homeland Security report that said in 2018, a PLA laboratory, a virologist, sent to the University of Minnesota vials of coronavirus. And this was a year before the outbreak of the pandemic. And this was research funded at the University of Minnesota by the National Institutes of Health. So this is all starting to come to a head here, and we've really got to pay attention to it.
By the way, Peter Navarro had a great day with a hit, but a weak day on recommendations. No, Peter, we're just not going to go after civilly Fauci. Fauci deserves to be in prison. He deserves to die in prison. And we're going to move heaven and earth to make sure that happens. Gertz, where do people go and get your content, sir?
Washington Times, washtimes.com, or the gertzfile.com, GERTZFILE.com. All my stories and books there and columns are there.
How are the grandkids? How's the grandchild? Gertz, you're one of the world's greatest granddads. How are things going? Great. You deserve that so much.
I'm going on vacation next week, and we'll see her.
Gertz, you're the best. Thank you. Bill Gertz, the PLA. No, Bridge, your idea of hemispheric defense, brilliant. The key to that's the Central Pacific and the 3 island chains. That's the pivot. That gets us off Mackinder 101. Let's not get wobbly with the PLA. Let's not get wobbly. Don't go wobbly. They're an enemy. They're the existential threat. Matt Meck, the coalition, the great warriors, now more than ever. Voter integrity, particularly because here's what's going to happen. I think it's August 4th is the date for the Save America Act after you can't mess with the voter rolls. We're going to have to go to some sort of executive order, national security emergency. This is my saying. Hey, who am I? Just some schmendrick. Talk to me about the event you're going to have in Vegas. Tickets are now available. I want everybody that can make it to try to make it. It's going to be extraordinary. Give me the entire dump, sir.
Hey, Steve. Yeah, it's stormsummit.us is the page I can go to go register. You can see the great speakers. It's almost like a Rav fest. We've got 4 of the hosts, right? You, James O'Keefe, Wayne Allen Root, and of course, Trennis Evans will be there. And the whole several days, it's going to be unraveling deceptions, returning elections to we the people, and turning insight into action. And importantly, 25 August is the cutoff date for hotels to get a group discount rate. Ahern is sold out. I work with Sahara. I work with the Strat and the Trump. If folks want to come, please register before 25 August.
So where do they go right now to get tickets, find out more information about who's coming, what the events are, et cetera, the schedule? Where do they go right now?
Stormsummit.us. Stormsummit.us.
I love it. And the Ahern Hotel, I want to thank the team there. As you know, Matt, they're so extraordinary. The event you guys just had there was incredible. The Bolsonaro was there. They've screened the film with Caviezel, just incredible. I want to thank you guys.
And Steve, Brazil will be back, and the South Koreans will be back. They're coming back here for this event.
Amen. That's the way to do it. Matt Meck and the coalition, they're fighting. Let's get the national security emergency. They're jerking President Trump around on this Save America Act. It's time now not to be a supplicant. You've got the power. The White House has the power. Cornyn, hey, I guess we're going to have a throwdown today, right? I guess we're going to have a throwdown, so let's have it. If Cornyn thinks he's going to mess with the President of the United States, let's just have it. Make sure you go to all the different sites. Make your calls today. Charlie Kirk Show, Poso, Gruber, Bowling, and then back to the Worm at 5 o'clock. Natalie, in fact, is going to take the 5 o'clock day. Very, very, very special show. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Steve. You get 2 weeks free when you sign up. 2 weeks free, $1 million triple lock protection. No cost, no obligation, and you get to check it out. Don't let anybody get their hands on 90% of your net worth. That would be your home. Don't let it happen. HomeTitleLock.com. Talk to Natalie Dominguez and the team. Charlie Kirk Show is next. Natalie Winters will be with you at 5.